Hello everyone and welcome to another chapter of my university experience. So, everything is almost over.
I toyed with supernovas, turned galaxies into spinning tops. I gambled with God and made him a jack-in-the-box.
As of performing this, actually, everything is over. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the NHS project, it's my shout, and our final results that we've had back for every module, and basically everything else that I've deemed relevant to talk about, all the main things. So, let's begin. Now, before I go into the side quests, I have to talk about the main things of uni, which are that we've had all of our results back. So, naturally, I'm going to update the series with them. By the end of the last video, my bar chart of all my grades looked like this. We had quite a few of our results back. In fact, as of now, we've had all of them back. But back then, we were waiting for our video essay marks, our normal essay marks, the Greek performance, and the Greek blog marks. We were waiting for these four things back, which we've since had. First, I'm going to talk about the video essay marks. We found these out on the 23rd of May. Me, Sophie and Vic were working on this NHS project with one of our lecturers, which I'm going to go into more detail about later. On our break, we had about an hour, I think, and we went to Costa. I had a Costa hot chocolate, and then we were walking back to uni where we had the email. Now, before I'd seen this email, my expectations were that I'd done very well on this, like one of my best things I'd done, because editing, I think, was my strong point. I had done 4 drafts. Editing, I think, was my strong point. I had done 4 drafts of it as well, and I enjoyed doing it. I opened the email, I saw the notes and the feedback, and I had 68, which is still a very good mark. But I lost marks because of the actual content of the video essay. All the effort in the editing and making it look fancy, and I got sidetracked by the content of the video essay. I added it into my bar chart. Overall, you need 70 or above to get a first in something. So 68 isn't bad. I was a bit like, okay. But it's still a very good mark, right? But for this particular task, I did think it was going to be higher, but it's fine. I'm going to play for you now my video essay. I think I'm allowed to play it. I don't know. But enjoy. Theatre. It's been around for millennia, generally as a means of social gathering, entertainment, and information for the masses. It was Shakespeare who once wrote that all the world's a stage. But when all of the world was shut down, how did theatre connect with the general public and society as a whole? For that is the question I will be answering in this video essay. When COVID shut down the theatres, people scrambled for an alternative means of entertainment for just as cheap, whilst still expecting quality. There were audio productions and showings of theatre recordings online, but neither of these retained the sense of community or involved the audience in the same way that a live production can. This is where multimedia theatre came in. While generally for a smaller audience, in order to follow COVID guidelines at the time, multimedia theatre allows the actors and audience to establish a connection in a safe environment using the technology available and the distance often made relevant to the plot between the performers and the audience to create a personalised experience for all, similar to how an actor might address an audience slightly differently each night when performing in a more traditional setting. When researching multimedia, I came across a theatre-based company owned by Dan Bernard, Joe McAllister and Rachel Briscoe called Fast Familiar. They aim to design audience-centric experiences, which means that you, the audience, are at the heart of it all. They use their digital literacy and technology to create performances that encourage more meaningful interactions with people by getting out of the way and not restricting how people interact with the shows. There are people involved that have to run the show, but you don't see them, or you very rarely see them, rather than a select few whose job it would be to hand out the technology required to take part, to explain the game, or even to just tap begin on the laptop. Using an example of one of their works, The Justice Syndicate, to demonstrate how multimedia theatre can be an extremely effective piece of theatre, the immersive show has an audience of 12, who are each jurors sat around a big table. Each is given a tablet of which all the evidence they need to participate is on it. They have 90 minutes to come to some form of conclusion as to whether the main person throughout the case is guilty or not guilty based off the evidence presented to them, because each audience member can vote anonymously on the tablets given to them. But all of the information is anonymously fed back to the workers, who are able to drive the plot of the performance without directly influencing it in a way that conforms with how people have voted. So each show is different.
We use this documentation, the anonymised data we've collected, to help us predict what will happen in future.
The fast familiar workers are really to be seen in order to minimise potential embarrassment, and back during the height of the pandemic was to ensure that the actors or workers even were following the COVID guidelines, because this can stop people from engaging with the show if they feel embarrassed. They do this by talking and transmitting information through the tablet each person is given, with the idea that you can't be worried that a machine will be embarrassed if you mess up, because how would you offend or embarrass an iPad? Using their work, I would create a sort of a murder mystery type show of my own using technology, not only during the immersive show, but also beforehand, by having each expected participant have a link or an email sent to them that's unique for each member, so that they could find out whether they would be the murderer, the sheriff, or innocent. Throughout the interactive show, I would keep the audience away from as many company workers as possible, as to not distract from the game. But each of the audience members would have to try and work out who the killer was, with the killer having to try and get away with it. Everyone would have an iPad or a tablet with a program pre-installed, with all the information that they needed, so that there's no issues there. My show would run for about 60 minutes, with the players only being able to make one big guess at the end, which results in the person with the most votes getting shot by the sheriff. If the group successfully killed the murderer, then they win. But if the murderer survives, only the murderer does. Overall, Fast Familiar create immersive performances and experiences that allow people to participate in exciting opportunities in alternative ways post-pandemic, thanks to modern day technology. While going to a normal theatre and watching performances are now widespreadly available again, immersive performances offer a more personalised experience, with some being able to be performed wherever, with whoever. Next is our normal essay. Now, from memory, this wasn't particularly fun to do, with an essay, but we have had feedback on this. When I made my essay, my sentences were sometimes too long. It's really weird though, because when I write what I'm going to say for these videos now, I'm reading off the auto cue, I'm normally alright, and I imagine myself saying it, but hey ho. I made my essay, I had my feedback, that was my feedback. At one point I worked on it, and it was probably the worst thing we had to do. Well, no, it wasn't the worst thing we had to do though, because that goes to the theatre reviews. On the 26th of May, we had the essay back with the feedback. This was after we worked on the NHS project, and I went back to my accommodation. I looked at my marks, and it was 70. I got a first in this, but I was really happy about this, but then I wasn't sure how I felt knowing I got a first in this, getting more marks in this than in the video essay. I don't know, but it was still great. So as of this point in the video, the bar chart looks like this. We're waiting on 2 more marks. Now me and Ewan were conversing and wondering when we would get our Greek theatre module results back, as it was over like a month and a half ago at this point. Probably 2 months ago now as of making this. Me and Ewan emailed our lecturer for this, and he never got back to our emails, but at one point Ewan checked the uni site thing where we can see our marks. And one day, out of the blue, we had them back. Well, he didn't tell us we did, but whatever. We did our Greek theatre performance thing, which if you've been watching the series or if you're in my class, was meant to start in September and be finished by Easter. But things happened and we didn't until the end of April. And then after that we had to do our online blog about the whole thing. Now, most of my group knew exactly what to mention for the bit about what our struggles were. You know, the idea forming, obviously, right? But on both, we had our marks back. 70! It was brilliant! I was so excited! All of these marks together form a complete bar chart of the year. Look at that. I'm very proud of my marks for this year, and it's a shame that my first year marks don't even count towards my overall uni grade. It's like, But yeah, all of my marks are between 68 and 85, with 9 out of 11 of them being above 70, so I should get a first for the year. I don't know if I'll get a first year certificate or not, or just be told that I passed and I can go on to the next year. But I'm quite proud of it, if I may say so myself. I know it's very, oh, look at me. Right, and I admit it is. It entirely is. But it's a series that revolves around me. It's all about me. The attention's on me. And I'm going to give you my personal experiences and thoughts. I do hope that next year I get results like this, or better if I can. But yeah, marks-wise, I've been very happy with this. Our last day in uni that we all had to be in was for the Dissocia performance I mentioned last video. I haven't seen many people since then, but some of us were doing the NHS project. We met for it for the first time on the 23rd of May, and there were only 3 of us, but a few weeks before then we did do this Teams online call where there was like 8 of us initially, and we were discussing it. I don't remember much about what we discussed, but for various reasons a lot of people couldn't do it. So it got narrowed down to us 3, me, Sophie and Vic. We were chatting with our lecturer about what we could do with it. Now, I can't deny I had been terrified of this project because we had to do about 15 to 20 minutes of material in about 2 weeks' time. Coming up with it, learning it and practicing it. Back then I wrote that it is scary and it's gonna be an experience, and I do love a good experience. It reminded me of when I had to do 3 scripts all on the same day back in college. Chicago, my main theatre performance thing at my acting club, and my 2 A-level pieces. 5 overall with the audition thing for my uni. But yeah, back then, as of writing this on the 1st of June, there were 10 days to go until we performed it for the first time, which I will update you on shortly. Now, in this series, again, as I touched on this earlier, I will be as open as it is reasonable for me to be. I will try to put most things, if I can, but sometimes I have to be vague or not mention them if I think I might regret putting the information online. If it can come back to haunt me in any way, then I don't put it online. But how I've sort of been lately, it's hard to describe, but it's like, I feel like it's important to note it, because it is important. I was writing this at 2:45 AM like a few weeks ago, so maybe it was a late nightness talking, but again, it's a series all about me, where I will talk about my thoughts and feelings, as cringy as it is, I will do it. It's my series, I'll say what I want. Now, I had a particularly, back then, I had a particularly introverted phase, and I don't know, I was a bit miserable because of something I'll discuss in a bit. and a bit frustrated in general. I am going to mention it because, yeah, it is relevant. So, for years now, I've known that I'm very introverted. Like, I love being on my own at the end of the day, either with or without my dogs, preferably with my dogs, the exception. If I'm home, I'm chilling. I do quite like a day out on my own with my so-called introvert days, like looking around places, treating myself. But I have a social battery. It is a very rubbish battery, it doesn't last very long. I actually bought this a while ago, a little social battery thing. And it's like, I love spending time with people for so long, working with them and having a laugh, spending time with them. But then, not long after, it's a case of me wanting to go home, which can be annoying because if it runs out during like uni work or an event, then I just feel like drained and like I don't know how to sort of get over it. With some people there is an exception to the social battery and I could chat with them whenever. I hope they know who they are because they're very important to me. And I really do enjoy spending time with friends and all. And I don't always want to be alone. Like, it's an honour to be invited to places, just don't ask me to be chatty. I'm quite happy to sit there and listen to people chatting and talking. But I'm rubbish at conversation making and it's just, I don't know why. But the reason I've been feeling down a few weeks ago, one of the reasons I suppose, one of the cons of being an introvert is having next to no social skills. Like, I'm rubbish at conversation making and it's not something you can just learn, is it? I don't know. I think COVID and the year that where we were all stuck indoors just showed, well, it probably affected this, I don't know, but I'm so bad at conversation making that I never know what to say to people. Back then I described it as like a baby trapped in a prison, but they're holding the key. All the things are there to get out, but I don't know what to do. It's not exactly a thing you can just tell people and get help for, is it? Like, you just try and adapt, you put up with it. Some things you say will stick, some things will just baffle people. You never know, but then you just left some awkward silence. It's like, I don't know, I can never like read the room. It's like sometimes it's easier to say nothing, but then it's frustrating because sometimes I'll think of something, but I won't say it because why take the risk? And there's only a very few people I know that I can talk to literally about anything. I don't know. It was just a phase, and it took a lot of redrafts and thinking about what to say in a way that's suitable for online viewing and for general carefulness. And I really don't want to offend anyone, and I'm not looking for sympathy, but this series is all about my thoughts, and it's genuine, right? It's not always going to be, look at this grade I got, look what I did here. It's not. And I love spending time with people, and it's just after a while, it's like, that sort of spark I've got for wanting to talk to people just goes. I don't know why. But I went through this phase for about a week, wanting to talk to as few people as possible. But I think it's over, at least for now. I don't know. But the reason for this will be for what I'm moving on to now. It's my shout. Last video I mentioned how I made it through auditions 1 through 4. And I was waiting for a response. A week later, I got nothing. 2 weeks later, nothing. I messaged on their Instagram if they would announce who had the roles, and they said they would email if I was selected, so I obviously didn't get it. I was gutted about this because I'd spent loads of time learning the script as well as Dissociate back then. I spent a lot of time learning this It's My Shout script, not my uni assessment. And I went to all the auditions for It's My Shout, and it crushed me. This one particularly crushed me. Unfortunately, I have to get used to this because it's the life of an actor, but it never gets any easier. As devastating as it can be when you put loads of work into a script, only for it to have all been a waste of time. It had me thinking about whether acting as a profession was going to be worth trying. I really want to be an actor, and I love acting. but it's difficult to know where to go for this sort of thing. Like, I've updated my essay photos for now. I made a mini show reel of some of my work because some acting jobs require that you do that. And I want to sign up for this website called Spotlight, where lots of acting roles are posted, but it's a bit expensive at £18 a month, or like so much a year. Because I'm deadly serious about acting, I love it, but all of the wasted time and odds of working, of getting acting work is such a strong demotivation. Like, it depends on who I talk to, because the wrong person would make this worse, whereas false hope isn't any better. The future scares me because I don't want to be working at McDonald's or anywhere equally as suitably not for me for the rest of my life. I don't know, but that's sort of a thing I've been overcoming. But now let's talk about something more reassuring. So ages back when we were doing our Dissociate project, and maybe even before, I don't actually remember, one of our lecturers was talking about a project that was relevant somehow to the NHS. I wasn't sure at the time what to expect. I thought it would be like a TV advert, so I applied for it thinking, hell yeah, I'd be in an advert for the NHS. I'd love that. Fast forward then to just before the end of our final performance, our final assessment, we had a Teams chat with a woman who would be the link between what was to be the conference and us. She was in the middle. We were to create a piece relevant somehow to pancreatic cancer. To begin, there were 8 of us, I think, but 5 people couldn't do the project for various reasons. And it was during this Teams call that we found out that we would be performing live for a conference taking place at our uni. So different to what I expected, but still to be an interesting experience. I'm talking before we did it now. As a performing this, it's long gone, but I'll sort of pretend for this that we haven't yet. So by the time we began to make our performance, there were 3 of us, me, Sophie and Vic. We had about 3 weeks to start off with to make something with our lecturer. Initially, this was really hard because we literally had nothing. So today is the 28th of May. Uni is over. We don't have any lessons per se now. But I'm doing the side quests, extra stuff, and one of them is the NHS project thing. On the 11th of June, we've got to perform this thing about pancreatic cancer. But it's not written, we haven't staged it, it doesn't exist at the moment, it barely exists. After today's thing, we did like a small scene of it. But it's quite scary because it's about 20 minutes long, and we have just over a week to do it. So that's like terrifying. We have no idea what we're doing. It's going to be even harder, even closer to do than the dissociate thing. It's like, if that was medium level, this what we're doing now is extreme levels of closeness. No script, no plan, ideas. One of my weaknesses is coming up with ideas and writing stuff, but once I'm told what to do, and when I know what I'm doing, then I'm good at learning stuff quickly and knowing what to do. I think there's a train going past, I don't know if you can hear it on camera. But over the course of the few weeks, Vic wrote us part of the script, Sophie wrote a monologue, we learnt our lines, and over the course of the 2 to 3 weeks, I'd say we had like 6 rehearsals, I think. The first week was particularly scary because we started, quite literally, with nothing. The second week was still nerve-wracking because we did have stuff, but we had to learn it all and have a bit more material to do in just under 2 weeks. Our piece was around 15 minutes, so it was quite a lot to get done. To put that into perspective, for the Dissociate thing, we had like 2 weeks to learn 10 pages of script, so it was doable. The third week of our thing was more reassuring, as our piece formed together somehow with lines being learnt. But what scared me the most was the whole thing of learning lines and then the idea of, could you just add this or could you just change that slightly, which threw me off because then I got to relearn the whole line in my head because I don't know how I do it, but I can sort of visualise the line as I'm learning them. But we were getting it slowly, but surely we were getting it. Monday the 10th was our final rehearsal day, and it was a busy day. We all had to be in uni for 8 as we were watching the conference. It was on for the whole week, with different things happening on different days. We watched the conference, which had a lot of interesting moments in it, and it talked about like mixing storytelling with professional medical care. I didn't understand a lot of it because we were sat around medical and care professionals, and the language they used was going to be complicated and fancy, but they discussed how storytelling can be used to help get patient stories across, and I like that, and to discuss what it can be like in patients' shoes to tell their story. The bits that I was able to understand were interesting. I genuinely found it quite intriguing, because the whole idea behind the conference was that you can cure people and support them, of course you can, but also mentally as well and through performance to help them. There was something quite touching about that. I quite liked that. After the conference we had another practice. Even in this practice we were still adding things on, and it was scary having to learn even more stuff less than 24 hours before the performance. This week was also mental, as we were told that not only are we performing on Tuesday, as we all thought, on Tuesday the 11th at our uni, but also Friday the 14th as well, in London. It was quite the surprise. The uni were willing to pay £60 a ticket for us all to go, so £240-ish minimum, so we could perform our 15-minute piece at a conference. I mean, fair play. As I type this now, it was Wednesday the 12th back then, and I wrote that I was both terrified and excited for the day out in London. As I'm speaking this to you, it's the 18th. So the Tuesday the 11th arrived, we had a final rehearsal on the stage with the lighting and the music and so on. We hadn't been able to use the stage for ages though, to make it work, but hey ho. The rehearsal went well. We had 2 tech runs which went smoothly-ish. The first time we did it on the stage I bumped into the wall because I overcompensated because you can barely see through the mask. But after a while we got ready, the audience came in, I took my place. For my props I had to have this briefcase and my phone. The first time ever that was, performing with my actual phone. It was so weird though, because after many years at my acting club using fake or dummy phones, it was quite odd. We did our performance in front of the audience. We were the first thing in this conference on the day. It went well, we smashed it. After the performance we came back out and we had our applause. And then we go backstage where we were very quietly playing Gartic Phone and rejoicing in the fact we did it. Later on though, before everyone left for the conference break, there was a question and ask section. Now, as a character, I've maxed out my stats in confidence, but I had to sacrifice charisma. I didn't put any stats into charisma. So I'll offer to talk and enter a room first and look like a pillock, offer to do something, but I'll probably end up being awkward, not knowing what to say, making a fool of myself. Although, to be fair, that's where the lack of dignity and self-respect comes in. We had some of our class come in to watch the conference. It was nice to see them again. They got to witness us being asked questions by the audience about how we came up with stuff. Although I'd argue that this was harder than the actual performance. Like I said earlier, I'll talk. I don't know what to say, but I'll talk. The question was asked, everyone looked at each other, and I figured that no one would say anything, so I did, because the question was something along the lines of, have you had any knowledge or experience of pancreatic cancer before this? To which I haven't, touch wood. She asked the question, and I responded with something like, no, not before doing this. Although now with the research we did, I know a lot more about this than I did back then, which I thought was not so bad. After the interview finished, then we went into the lobby where there were cakes, fruit, hot drinks, and so on. We waited on the side because we would have a filmed interview about the project. We waited about an hour for it to eventually be called, and then went to Spoons where I had a lovely fish and chips. It was very nice. I very much enjoyed my fish and chips. And then I commuted home after. It was a long day, but I enjoyed it. And then eventually Friday the 14th came around, and it was a busy one. I was in Cardiff because we had a final practice the day before, and I had to be up at 4 a.m. to catch the train for just after 5. I couldn't have been at my normal house because the trains don't go after midnight, and yeah, so they finish after midnight and then don't carry on again until 6 a.m. I'd hate to be at the mercy of public transport like that. It would have been so hard if I was still a commuter. But yeah, I was in Cardiff for our practice 12 till 2. I went back to my accommodation and I slept from 2 till 4. This was because I didn't want to sleep that night with the risk of not waking up at 4 a.m. Shemai, so today is the 13th of June. It's the day before we go to London to perform our thing for the final time. I'm walking back to my accommodation. I've got my lovely briefcase thing I've got, which is actually my sister's trumpet case thing. We got to be up at Cardiff Central for 4ish. So that's going to be fun. Well, 4:30 I got to be there because our train's at just past 5. Yeah, it's going to be a long day, but I'm not sure how I'm going to sleep, because I can really sleep the best of times as it is. So I don't know if I'm going to try and get some sleep now in the afternoon, play a huge gamble and try and sleep tonight and wake up at 4, hoping I end up getting up, or just pull an all-nighter. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet, or what I can do, because I can never sleep in the night as it is, but we'll see how it goes. Whew. So I stayed up that night. I went live for a while, and then I went to Cardiff Bay for a walk, which was quite nice. Cardiff Bay in the night looks beautiful. I took some photos. There's something quite nice about a late night walk to the bay. That's quite relaxing. It was dark, but it was dark too, so it was even better. The place looked amazing. I went back to mine then, and I packed some of my stuff a bit, because I'm out of my accommodation now a lot less often now. So I had a mini tidy, and I packed some of my stuff that I probably won't use. It's all down below. I watched some telly, I went on my phone, and eventually 4 a.m. rolled around. I got dressed, and I met Sophie and Vic outside as we would walk to the train station together to meet our lecturer. 4:15 in the morning. Jolly times. We got on the train at about 5ish for a good few hours to London Paddington. We went outside, and the view was lovely. I'd never been to this part of London before. It was my 4th time being in London ever. But we walked to the London Underground, which was very windy. And the escalators, oh my god, right. Irrational fear for me, I don't like normal escalators because they freak me out, right? Like stairs, but less safe. But these were like 3 times as steep. And I was there looking at the ground, holding the rail. Oh, I hated it. when I wrote this script, actually, my spine like tingled. Ugh, I hated it. What I found to be ironic was that the ticket to get on the London Underground was cheaper than to get a train ticket from my train station to Cardiff. Eventually we walked around and we had breakfast. Our lecturer paid for our breakfast, bless him, in London. I don't know whether it was from his own wallet or whether the uni reimbursed him or not. I don't know. But it doesn't matter. We love our lecturer. He's amazing, he's funny. He's my favourite one, and he has been my favourite one throughout the year. Bless him. I had a lovely cooked breakfast and an orange juice. And then we went straight to the building where the conference would take place. We were given these passes to go through the front gate, and we joined the first conference that was going on. We were there with loads of medical professionals and experts, even more so because it was in a proper established building, rather than just at our uni. But it was by this time that I was starting to suffer as a result of not sleeping that night. My brain just wasn't working. Next year will be very convenient living with people from my class because we can all just wake each other up. I was awake the whole time, of course, but my brain initially struggled to understand most of the stuff. Although, to be fair, with most of the fancy jargon that they were saying, I didn't understand much more than I would if I was awake. But yeah, after the first few conference meeting event things happen, they had a break and we went with my lecturer to set up where we would be performing. We were each given an envelope with some badges in them and a card, which I'll put a photo of above, or a video, I'm not sure. So inside the envelope were these two badges and a thank you card, bless, from the person we were talking to on the Teams call. Dear Jamie, thanks for your support, from Leslie. Bless. So it was really kind of her to send that. And then we got these two, one's a badge and the other one is a keychain. I'm gonna put that on my keys now. I'm gonna go back upstairs and I'm gonna put this on my lanyard. To thank us for our performance, bless them. We were performing in the lunchroom as there was a bigger performing space, and we were practicing as they all went back into their conference to do whatever that they were doing, and we were practicing in a different room elsewhere. The conference went on, we had a run through, and I struggled with one of my lines that we added on the day before. I knew the line, it was just difficult to call upon it. It was something along the lines of Mary Curie support people with terminal illness and offer end-of-life care and support, something like that. Afterwards, we had lunch. I had some sandwiches because why not? Not many though, because I was still full from the breakfast, and I'm on a bit of a diet trying to lose weight. After lunch, there was a mini talk / welcome back chat, and our group were introduced. We do our piece, it all went well, we smashed it, all the lines were done right, and just like that, 3 weeks of work were all over. As soon as it finished as well, I had a text message from my agency saying that I had just got another acting job, which I have been doing as a performer in this over the last 3 days. So that was another success. The audience applauded. We had some more questions asked to us. I don't remember what they were, but I remember that we managed to answer them well. And yeah, they all go back into the main room for their conference. We pack up. I had a few more sandwiches and we left. We handed our passes back to reception and we walked back around London. We walked back around London to a bus stop which took us back to London Paddington. Little John with galvanised square steel and screws he borrowed from his aunt. 3-hour train journey and then back to Cardiff. During the train journey, our lecturer paid for our drinks as well, bless him. I had a can of Coke. Once I got back to Cardiff, I went back to my accommodation, I packed up, I commuted back home. I spent about 6.5 hours on the train that day, whether it was from Cardiff to London, London to Cardiff, Cardiff to my Cardiff to my train station, and then an hour on the buses. It was a brilliant day, and I'm so glad I did this project. It was busy and mental, a lot of work, but it led to this day being a thing, and I wouldn't have it any other way. What I was thinking of, that week I was really miserable and particularly introverted, was that if I had gotten that It's My Shout job for that short film, I wouldn't have been able to have done this NHS project in London, and it was a brilliant experience. So in a way, I'm kind of glad I didn't get it now. I did this project instead. But with the end of this project, it meant that I had officially finished the first year of university. Back then I wasn't sure when we would get our overall result back for all our modules, but we did some research on it, me and you and earlier, today in fact, and I believe we get it all next week. So next video will probably be the end of year 1 of this series. It's mental how a third of my uni life is, well, I don't know if it's a third, maybe a quarter depending on what I do, but such a huge chunk of my uni life is already over. It's scary. I don't know what next year's going to bring, but next year's going to be serious. Whatever we do will count towards our overall grade. I'm living with people from my class next year. That's going to be interesting. But yeah, only time will tell. And until then, that is the end of this video. So, thank you all for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Have a good day. Don't forget to drink hot chocolate. Stay safe. And for me, it is goodbye for now. Shemai, so today is Tuesday the 8th of June, but I'm walking the dogs at the moment. Don't know if you can see them very well there. Yeah, I'm walking the dogs. In 3 days, on Tuesday, we perform our NHS project at our uni. And then on Friday the 14th, we're going to London to perform it in front of medical professionals, so no pressure there. It's been a very interesting project. The rehearsals have been an experience. Yeah, we haven't had long to do it though, so it's only like 15 minutes long, but acting's acting, isn't it? You know, it's all experience to be had. So it's happened, our first performance of it. It happened, it went really well. Yeah, our piece went decently. I'm glad that it's half over now. We've only got the one left to do on Monday. Ooh, that's cool. That is really cool. But yeah, also we've got this to do now on Monday. Friday even, not Monday, Friday, 14th. And if I just show you this, that's done. Woo! So, it's just gone midnight of the 14th. It's Friday. I'm not going to sleep now because I'm worried I won't wake up and then I'll messed up everything. I had 2 hours this afternoon, 2 till 4. A few hours ago I went to Cardiff Bay, looked around. That was nice. Came back. I packed up some of my stuff because I'm going to be moving out of my room at some point soon. So I did some of that. Just watched a bit of telly now. Yeah, in about 3-4 hours I've got to head on over to Cardiff Central. So that's going to be fun. And just like that, it was all over. You can probably tell I'm soaked. There's a downpour on the way back from the train station to my place. I gotta get changed, pack my stuff, commute home, and and then going back next week because I got some acting work to do. Paid acting work.